Welcome to the Bourbon Talk Show, the ABV Network's original YouTube series where we interview some of the most interesting people from the world of bourbon. Today on the show, we'll be talking to Jane Bowie, Master of Maturation and Director of Innovation for Maker's Mark, and Andrew Wiehebrink, Director of Research and Development for Independent Stave Company. My name is McNew. Please join me in welcoming our host for the evening, Steve Akeley.
Hey, gang, how's it going?
Hey, Steve.
Hey.
What up, buddy?
So we are going to have some fun today. We've got two great guests here. We've got Jane and Andrew, and of course they're pretty close friends too. So this should be fun. They're already talking about they want to talk during the other one's interview and stuff like that. So this should be very different and very fun interview today. But before we get to that, we like to talk about the bourbon news. What's going on in the world of bourbon? We always do 3 stories. And here's what we got for this week. So first one up, McNew, Stephen Bush, great grandson of Adolphus Bush, which I like this. It's a St. Louis based, right? Anheuser-Busch is St. Louis based. Adolphus Bush, the guy who started Anheuser-Busch. So Stephen Bush has started a whiskey business. Now this is a source brand called Walker's K Bourbon. It's a high rye bourbon. He says it's very smooth and easy to drink. He claims it's a little sweeter because he uses sherry cast staves to finish it. And he notes that it's in Missouri oak barrels because the connection to St. Louis, which is kind of cool. But I don't know that makes a whole lot of difference. We'll ask Andrew when we get to him which barrels are better, the Missouri ones or the Kentucky ones. I think it's the Missouri. So we'll ask him. We'll find out. The price for this McNew is $36.99. Are you trying this?
I think for that price, that'd be something fair to try, right?
Yeah, you give it a chance, right?
I'm interested on how a high rye can be sweeter though. So I think it'd have a weird, different flavor profile, but I'd try it.
Okay. Yeah. This one, because he's coming in at a nice price, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt here. We'll give it a whirl. And yes, we'll see it. He's got a whole story too about Bahamas and, spending time with his dad and stuff. So, yeah.
Well, that's cool. But also in Anheuser-Busch news, they have a new pony. I almost said puppy. There's a new Clydesdale that was born. Did you see that?
No. What's Clydesdale's name?
I forget. I read it yesterday, but I just remember it being born. And I'm like, Steve, you need to go see this new Clydesdale. He's a little baby. He won't be that little for long.
Yeah, that's worth seeing. There's a couple places where they keep the Clydesdale, so I don't know where that's at.
He's at the training facility. He's not downtown yet.
Okay. So yeah, you're gonna be a while till we see him then. So yeah. But that's cool. That's neat. I love the Clydesdales. I love it. To me, Anheuser-Busch and those Clydesdales, that represents St. Louis. When I see that, and I think it does for a lot of people, and it makes you proud. It's civic pride right there with what goes on with that. So it's a cool thing. Our next story, McNew, Wolverine has once again partnered with Old Rip Van Winkle to create the Old Rip branded version of their 1,000-mile boots. The cost is $400, and they are on pre-order now, shipping in mid-October. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think people have spent more on stupider shoes. So, I mean, if you got it, go for it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think too. I think this is legit. I was looking at I thought, okay, what's the add-on for adding the Old Rip name on there? Because it's a whole thing. Like in the heel, there's part of a bourbon barrel in there. They hand number them like they number bottles and stuff like that. And I don't know, there's a couple other things that tie into Old Rip.
So I think a lot of bourbon guys are also boot guys, right? So I think this would be a great Christmas gift for the person in your life that loves both of those things.
Yeah, because the price for the regular 1,000-mile boots without Old Rip logo, $400. Price with Old Rip, $400.
Yeah, so it's a value add, but you're not getting overcharged for it. It's a brand name that's been around for a long time. A lot of people wear them, so I don't know. I think it's a good thing too. So yeah.
All right. This next one's a fun one. Buzzard's Roost is finally going to release a bourbon. How about that? Yeah,
I'm excited.
It's fronted by a guy whose nickname is the Bourbon Baron or the Bourbon Redneck. He owns a bar called Bourbon's Bistro, and he's had this brand around for years, and they're finally doing a bourbon.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, if he was going to do a bourbon, he was going to do it right. It just took a while to get there. The Bourbon Baron cannot release a bad bourbon, so it's going to be great. You gotta wait.
That's what I say with home improvement stuff. So like when the warden's like, why don't we fix up the bathroom? I'm like, we just don't have money to do it right. We could do it half-assed if you want. We'll do it half-assed, or we can wait just a little bit longer and do it right. And then she votes for do it
You're
right.
very lucky
And then I'm
that
off the hook.
Amy is like me,
Yeah.
because when I was done, I start it, and then Chris has to finish it, whether he wanted to or not. I
See,
just start.
That's why I don't allow her to listen to the shows, because I don't want her to find out about that. I like the style of we can do it now, it'll be bad, or we can do this really cool. So far that's worked for me, but we'll see. All right, well, it is time now to talk to our guest. Our first guest, Starta, is known as one of the most creative minds in the world of bourbon. She's also a lot of fun to talk to. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Miss Jane Bowie. Hey, Jane, how you doing? Hello.
No.
So
enjoying listening to all the conversation. It's fun.
oh yes, we're very fun to listen to. So the first question, we always like to do like a personal one, and for you, what I got here is, because this stresses me out. Now, my daughter is 24 years old, and I only have one child, and so by the time the whole COVID thing started, she was done with school and all that. This wasn't a factor for me, but you being a mother, not all of a sudden the kids are home. They last year they didn't have school, they didn't have daycare, and you got to kind of figure out what you're going to do. How did this impact you this past year with kids?
So I'm gonna say something that maybe is a little bit selfish, but I kind of loved the last 18 months in a lot of ways. My daughter is turning 5 next month. So when COVID started, she was 3 years old. My job, I travel a lot. So for the first time in her life, I was home and my husband had to be at work. So I actually packed up about, what was it, Andrew? About 100 whiskeys and built a blending lab in my dining room after daycare closed. And I got her a chemistry set and I got a lot of food coloring, and she fake blended every day with me for about,
Great.
she knows whiskey as far as just visually, likes to smell, but it was, some weird times, but it was fun being home with her. It wasn't always easy from a work perspective. But I've enjoyed, I realized how much I was missing being on the road. Although she went to her first whiskey show at 3.5 months old. The first year, I just took her everywhere with me. So it's not been bad. We played a lot of Candyland as well. And I do not let her win. That doesn't happen in my house. So
yeah, that's always the way I was too. Hey, I'll go kind of easy, but at the same time, you gotta flat out win. I'm not gonna just throw a game so you can automatically win everything.
Hell no, I want to get to the Candy King first. So.
Exactly. So Jane, working for a company like yours, branding and marketing really makes for loyal customers. And, you can see companies that have, not only great whiskey, but you guys also got great apparel. Sometimes when you get into other things like coffee or barbecue sauce, always make sure they're high quality products that reflect well on your brand, even if you're not making them, it's just a licensing thing. And, what's it feel like, for a company then, because it's almost, if you're a Maker's Mark fan, you kind of feel like you own the brand too. You have this loyalty that extends beyond. So what's it like working for a company where consumers are so loyal that they'll call you out if you're messing with anything or doing something different, and they just have that sort of buy-in to what you're doing?
I love it. I think it would be worse that no one gave a shit. So we have really passionate consumers, and when we do things they're not fond of or not proud of, they let us know. But they're also very forgiving, and it's a two-way communication. So I think for me, I've been with Makers almost 15 years, and I was a fan before I worked there. So I love that our consumers have so much ownership on the brand. It makes us more thoughtful. And when you have consumers like that, you make decisions through a different lens. I think you don't want to disappoint them. You don't want to take advantage of them. You want to treat them the way you would treat your friends in your personal life. So when we think about pricing, when we think about products, we really do think about our ambassadors and our friends that have kept the brand going for 70 years. I mean, especially here at home, Kentucky kept the lights on for 22 years when nobody was drinking bourbon.
Right.
So for us, I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're very vocal, but
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The best way possible, I'm sure. So
absolutely.
your first job with Makers, and again, we've had you tell the story before, was a global ambassador. You really got that job. You created it. That wasn't something they were doing before. And we've heard you kind of tell the story how, you told Rob Samuels this is what you wanted to do. And ultimately they were kind of looking to make that kind of sort of expansion anyway. But when you get the job, what exactly were you doing? What was your role like on an everyday basis as a global ambassador?
It depended on the country.
Uh-huh.
So I would go in the first year, I worked in 9 different countries. A lot of times it was kind of training the sales team and the distributor on this is bourbon and this is the product and this is how you drink it and this is how you serve it and this is where it should go on a back bar, or this is our heritage. Sometimes it was things as basic as in Spain, no one knew how to open the bottle. So it was like, "Here's how you open the bottle."
It's the
People
ABCs, yeah.
unpacking it with knives. But it was so grassroots, and it was so raw. It was such a scrappy job, and I love that. It was, those first 5 years of, talking to people a drink at a time, and I didn't go anywhere without Makers in my bag or my purse or on my person. Like it was so much fun, and no one knew anything about bourbon. So I got to talk about Kentucky a lot. I got to talk about home. And I got to go to some really cool places and have some really neat experiences in places I probably never would have gone.
Right. Now you think about when you get someone coming from another country, you kind of ask them about their country. What did they know about Kentucky, first of all? And then what did they want to know, about Kentucky? So
Um, Colonel Sanders or Kentucky Fried Chicken was
they
always number one.
they know that, huh? That's
Always. It's everywhere. It's
uh-huh.
everywhere. I would say horse racing and bourbon were kind of, it really depended on the market, what people would know, but Kentucky Fried Chicken was always the first thing they would know.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So your next title, according to LinkedIn, was diplomat manager. So tell me about what your job was in that role.
So I came home to, it's advocacy work when people are brand ambassadors. It's a really weird job because you have a foot in sales and a foot in marketing, but you better know operations enough to not look like an asshole when you go talk to people.
Right.
And so there's no career trajectory necessarily. And so I tried a lot of things. I was always most passionate about the liquid, but I'm a pretty aggressive person. So I kind of took on a more commercial role for the brand when I came back to Kentucky, and really looking at strategically how we were showing up in the state, how we were sharing advocacy from the distillery. And so it was a little bit of a hybrid role, that it was such a drastic change from going to a global market. It always sounds like a demotion to people. So you went from being a global ambassador to working in but you got to imagine, I work and live in the most competitive bourbon market in the world. The backyard is, there's everything available and everyone's here and everybody wants to win the home state, right? Everybody wants home court. So it was really the juxtaposition of going from this global, and I was always an underdog and people didn't have any expectations and no one knew anything about bourbon, to going, you talk about, Jason Bronner, and suddenly I'm going into Bourbon's Bistro and he's like, no, I'll tell you about bourbon, right? Like, let me tell you about Maker's Mark. And so it was a very different job, and I learned a lot, and I worked, I hadn't worked in the 3-tiered system before, and I learned the business. And that was where I really grew my commercial brain, my strategic brain, and understanding, I guess, holistically how the business works.
Yeah. tell us about your job now, you know, in particular, how you work with Denny Potter, because, you know, he's someone that we certainly know. And, you know, does your job allow you to work together a lot?
Andrew, how do you think I work with Denny?
You know, she's she's so supportive of Denny, and I mean, they bounce back and forth off each other. It's just a pleasure to watch them work together.
Yes. Yeah. We recently had Jane on the Bourbon Show, and I almost feel like I got to bring Denny on for equal time, the equal time laws, because she's ripping on him. Of course, he doesn't have a way to say anything back. It's almost like we got to bring him on there to allow him to rebut everything that was said. Right, Renee?
Yeah. I should have just invited him over tonight. He felt so left out. We were talking about doing this today. He was like, I should have invited. So, I mean, I honestly, for me, I've got my dream job. If you could have asked me to create my own job, this would have been it. I spend all day thinking about flavor and whiskey, tasting, nosing, arguing and debating and learning and being challenged from people like Andrew, people like Denny, people that are friends, but also colleagues and think differently than me and are smarter than me. And so it's fun to go to work every day. Not only do we have a beautiful campus, like you can't be in a bad mood when you drive up to our distillery, but it's fun work and it's exciting work and it's thoughtful. You know, you're planning very far out, and you've got this really storied brand with all these amazing employees. But I love it. And Denny's amazing. I mean, our skill sets could not be more different if we tried, which is great. You don't want a bunch of people who think like you, like you're not going to accomplish anything. And then Beth Buckner, who is our innovation manager, who came from quality and is really the science. She and I are the innovation department. So it's the three of us. And then Wiehebrink is probably over once or twice a week, depending on what he's got going on. I don't like that he works with other brands, but it's okay. So it's great.
That's great. Yeah. So you've, you know, worked with some legends, some Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Famers, you know, and just look at this list: Bill and Rob Samuels, and these are people either you worked with or had some sort of significant interaction through stories that you've told me. So obviously Bill and Rob Samuels, Dave Pickerel, Denny Potter, Steve Nally, Al Young, Steve Akeley. You've got all these great people from the bourbon industry.
Good, Steve.
That was slick.
That was good, right? I slid that in there. It just so, you know, besides the Samuels, because, you know, obviously you work for the company and Rob's, you know, been a mentor and a boss. Yeah, I get that. But besides those two, besides the Samuels family, who's made the biggest impact on you and your role in the world of bourbon?
Honestly, you know, and I actually I did not ever work with Steve Nally. He had already left by the time I started. I think there's a few. I will say my friends at ISC, and then Andrew came in a little bit later, but I learned a lot. Brad Boswell. I mean, I trust ISC and their knowledge and their skills, and I can only do what I do because of them. And
she hated me at first.
What'd you say?
I said she hated me at first.
I didn't like Andrew at first.
Really?
Bring it.
Like,
yeah.
He always smelled, and not bad. He smelled good, but you can't walk into a lab to taste whiskey smelling. Like
I got kicked out my first day.
Anything. Like I have non-scented detergent. I have not had lotion on my hands in fucking 5 years. Like you can't smell. And so Andrew walks in this meeting, and I kicked him out of the lab.
That's good. He needs to learn that. He needs to be humbled. That's good for him.
Too strong.
He's a handful.
And then honestly, Diane Rogers, our former quality manager, she and I were in the trenches together for Private Select, and I was new to operations. I was new to working, and she really made a home for me. And she's no longer with us. Actually, she lost a lengthy battle to cancer last year, and she was incredible. She was one of those unsung heroes that people didn't know. But I've had a lot of really amazing, I've been lucky. There's a lot of talented people that have been willing to help me along the way.
Yeah, that's very good. Not committing to anything, but shouting out a lot of shout outs to a lot of people. That's a perfectly diplomatic way to do that. Yeah. One of the weird things about being in the job that you're doing now, there's a demand for you as a speaker. People want your time. They want you to come on the Bourbon Talk Show, or you could probably do something like this just about every night. And then there's, of course, meetings during the day. And, what's that feel like? You're just a person who goes and takes a job, and now all of a sudden you're kind of like a celebrity. How's that feel?
I don't know that that's true.
It's true. It's true.
It's fun to talk about whiskey. I mean,
Right.
I'll never pass on an opportunity to sip on something and chat. It's my favorite subject after my kids. So I love it.
Yeah. Question for you, because you don't come from a lineage where generation after generation worked in the bourbon business, and you go to work in that, and obviously you have great success and you're very well thought of within the industry. What are your friends, the group that you had before this, before you ever started it in this business, what do they think about what you're doing right now?
They don't know.
Right. I get it. My friends don't know what the hell I'm
They
doing
don't
either. They're like,
know.
what do you do? What,
They have
how's
no
this
idea
work?
what my job, like my dad will come to the distillery and I'll get ready to go in a building. He's like, "Are you allowed to go in here?" He's probably worried that I'm not allowed. Like I shouldn't be going into buildings. And he's like, "Oh, should we be in here?" I'm like, "Fine." And then he's like, "Should you ask before you take that bottle?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, they don't." And then my mom will be like, "Someone said that you did a tasting and that it was good." I mean, yeah. So
Giving you a positive affirmation. Keep going.
yeah, I mean, they have no idea. So
Yeah. All right. Well, I always like and again, we're going to do a special thing here where we're going to bring you and Andrew together kind of for a bonus round, if you will, after Andrew's interview. But last question that I've got for you, just you individually, is what do you enjoy outside of Maker's Mark? I'm always interested in bourbon people, and I know you can't always drink your brand. So what would be something that you would gravitate towards if Maker's wasn't available?
I like a lot of stuff. I drink a lot of whiskeys in general. I kind of have a favorite from every distillery. I drink a lot of wine. I drink a lot of beer. I mean, other than vodka and rum, I like it. I mean, So it really depends on the mood, who I'm with. Andrew tries to make me drink Hypnotic all the time, and I don't do that. But otherwise, it's good.
Oh my God.
I was hanging out with him, and he's under the White Claws now. That he's big into. I've seen recently. So
Oh, I don't drink White Claws.
Yeah, Andrew does.
Hypnotic and White Claws, that's my MO now.
Exactly.
Well, actually, the Hypnotic thing came from, it's probably a story better told later on, but we got to tasting whiskey at Jane's house one night, and it was a lot of whiskey. She had us over to try to get rid of some of her whiskey because she was moving. And, after a few, they had tricked me to thinking that Denny Potter was the master distiller of Hypnotic. And which kind of goes to tell you how gullible I am.
Right.
And how drunk I was too. So ever since then, there's been kind of an ongoing Hypnotic inside joke. Yeah.
Like Denny Potter created Hypnotic. Andrew's like, "Are you kidding me?" And then it was like a whole Incredible Hulk thing, and it was amazing.
It's so good. He's into it now. All right. Well, Jane, thank you so much for being part of this. Like I said, stick around. We're gonna bring you back out in just a little bit here and ask you some questions with Andrew that combined, which will be fun. But for right now, we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll be talking to Andrew Wiehebrink.
Today's show is sponsored by Moonshine University. Moonshine University offers programs to assist individuals in the bourbon industry or simply fans wanting to step up their knowledge. Whether you are looking for in-person learning in the classrooms of Moonshine University or looking for self-study online, there are options to fit your unique needs. Check them out at moonshineuniversity.com. We are also sponsored by the ABV Network's Distiller Summit in Key West, Florida. This 4-day event features events and networking opportunities from January 27th through 30th, 2022. And there's really no better place to be in the world than sunny Key West. Get more information on our website at abvnetwork.com.
Definitely check that out. We got about 70 signed up, and it's about 15 different distillers. I mean, well-known people from the world of bourbon.
Yeah. And it just keeps growing every day, Steve, with the amount of people going. So it's going to be good.
It is pretty cool. We're working on Wiehebrink, so we'll see if he makes it. And of course, we'd love to have Jane out there too. And if Wiehebrink's going, I feel like we can get Jane. If we can get Wiehebrink to go, then we get to work on Jane and her husband to go.
There we
too.
go.
Yeah, we'll try.
Yep. And finally, we have some major scoop here. And I'm the first person to announce that Steve Akeley's new book, Bourbon Assignments, is now published, and we have it available for pre-order in the ABV Network shop. As a special to our loyal Bourbon Talk Show viewers, we have a one-day flash sale going on in the ABV Network shop. We're offering 15% off today with the only code BTS New Book at checkout. That's BTS New Book at checkout.
Yeah, not bad. Gets you 15% off. I'm very excited about that. I mean, this book to me is very personal because so many people ask me, because I go to Kentucky and they don't ever take time to learn what I do, like my friends and stuff like that. But when they're going, they'll say, you know, what should I do? And I've created a book. Initially, the idea was almost like a travel book. Here's where you should go. And then I thought, you know what if I took it a step further? Because that stuff's already out there. If I, and I suggest a bourbon bar to go to, like Bourbon's Bistro. And, what if I said, hey, get the pork chop, or get get this specific pour, or, see if Jason will take you up to the office where he keeps all of his old things. And if you can do any of that, you get points. And then what I like about the system is throughout the course of the year, you build up your points. And then at the end of 2022, people will then submit me their points, what they scored, honor system, of course. And the 10 highest will come on the Bourbon Daily. We'll feature a show just about them where they tell us about their bourbon adventures. Yeah.
And I'm so excited this is out. You spent a good chunk of the summer working on it.
I did. Yeah. I actually started in February on it. So it took me, I don't know, 8 months or something to work on this thing. So I think it's cool. I feel like it's also a way to give back, because so many businesses help support me in my bourbon journey. And now I'm directing people to go to their business and also giving them assignments to spend money there. I feel like it's a pretty cool thing. So,
and I think this is great for like the people who have maybe done the bourbon trail or have done parts of it, like little add-ons, like you're already in Kentucky, go do these things. That's fantastic.
Right. Yeah. It's cool stuff. So check it out. It's out there on Amazon right now. So you can get it on Amazon. You think, well, how come Amazon's got it and you don't, Steve? You wrote the book. Well, I go through Amazon. So they have it on their site first, and then they have to print it and send it to us. So it'll be about 2 weeks. But so we're pre-ordering now on the thing, and we're doing this one-day flash sale for 15% off. BTSnewbook.com for Bourbon Talk Show New Book. Not .com. BTS New Book is the coupon code. So check it out. All right. And now it is time to get back to the show. Our second guest is the perfect mixture of science and fun. By day, he's the director of research and development for Independent Stave, and by night, he's just one of the guys. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Andrew Wiehebrink.
Hey, Wiehebrink. Hey, guys. How are you? How's everybody?
Good. How are you doing?
A little busy today, but other than that, the day is finally, kind of coming to an end. But it's been a pretty good week, and I'm doing pretty good.
That's good. So first question, again, we always like to start on with kind of a personal one. And the one I have for you is, I know your father was a Jack Daniel's drinker, and your uncle, who helped raise you, was a Jack Daniel's drinker. Mm-hmm. And so that was very big in the family. And when you started thinking about getting in the industry, did you ever think about, just going to work for Jack Daniel's?
No, it never crossed my mind. I mean, they had the big connection to Jack Daniel's, but I never really did. I was always kind of fascinated with bourbon. And, by the time that, my dad, his connection, he got his squireship in 72.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, yeah, his connection to Jack Daniel's, was kind of old school. And by the time that he was kind of teaching me about this stuff, he had his offices were not actually his office. He was a lawyer for the state of Kentucky. They had repurposed Buffalo Trace warehouses into government offices, and that was where his office was. So working there, he kind of got the bourbon bug, and then so it was always bourbon from the start. It was never. I drank a lot of Jack Daniel's. I don't drink it as much anymore. I worked at a bar, and we were sponsored by Jack Daniel's, and it was kind of out there then. But
what was your job at that bar?
Yeah, what was your job, Andrew?
I was a DJ.
What was your DJ name?
Jazzy Jeff.
It's worse than that. It was DJ Cowboy Andy.
You can Google it. I recommend it.
Thanks.
Really, Cowboy Andy. Oh, that's great.
DJ it was a country bar.
Oh, nice.
But, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But no, Jack Daniel's. Nothing wrong with it. It's it's great selling whiskey, but no, it was always bourbon for me.
And, you know, your uncle would not sponsor you to become a Tennessee Squire. How come?
He would not. And he was so particular about his Jack Daniels. The only thing I ever saw him drink, really, except for when we went on fishing trips. And I think his view was that I did not appreciate the, finesse and the elegance that was, Jack Daniels. And I guess until, he felt that I got to that point, he would not do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I'm still, I'd be honored to join the Squire, but I don't think it's going to happen for me.
Okay. So how exactly did you get on at Independent Stave? How did that opportunity come about, and how do you land the gig?
Well, much like Jane said, I started as a fan, and actually it's Jane's fault that the job even was posted to begin with, because, they were doing so much innovation at Maker's Mark, and Brad was just kind of like, we need somebody that's going to be close to home to manage all this stuff. So we joke around, and it's really not a joke. Jane created the position. But
she created her job and yours.
Yeah, actually. Yeah,
she's a job creator.
Create one for me as well, please.
Yeah, please create one for Renee.
We joke about it, but honestly, and I believe it's the truth. But like I said, I just started as a fan, and I was a mechanical engineer by degree, and I did that for, I don't know, 7 years or something like that. It just really wasn't as exciting as everybody, I thought it was going to be like computer programs, and it was just a lot of math. And, kind of my interest was growing in bourbon, and I got really, really pumped up about it. And I was just like, one day I was like, you know what, I'm just going to get a job at a distillery and, see where it takes me and quit engineering. But this job popped up, and it sounded cool. And it didn't even say cooperage. I mean, I assumed it was for a distillery because it said help develop, new bourbon products and yada, yada, yada. It didn't really say, build barrels, this, that, whatever, design barrels. It was all about working with whiskey brands to develop new products. And then when I found out it was a cooperage, I was like, wow, that's really, really cool. So I applied. I wrote letters. I think they hired me just to shut me up.
There you go. Persistence.
Yeah, but no, it was a long process. I submitted my application in September and didn't start until February of the next year.
Wow. What were you doing at that time? Was it just DJ Cowboy Andy? Did that help you land the job? Hey, let's hire DJ Cowboy Andy.
No, I was
his best take talk to the interview.
I was let go of that job due to creative differences. But I did do a little bit of moonlighting while I was engineer. But no, I was working on two projects. One was oddly enough, a chicken fryer for KFC.
Oh, nice.
In their overseas markets. And then we worked on a machine that was freezing alcohol into ice cubes.
That's cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So we did we finished that project up on a Friday, and I came to work for Independent Stave the next Monday.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they were nice enough to kind of, said I'd like to finish up this project and get it out the door. So Brad was nice enough to, give me about 3 weeks to finish that up, and then I started.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about your role at Independent Stave. I mean, I think we know, that there's a lot of research that goes on in the industry, but tell us a little bit about how that works and how it differs a little bit from somebody who, like Jane, who comes to you with an idea versus, are you guys also doing your own research and development type of things too?
No, we do our own research and development, and actually about 50% of my job is just barrel research. So we have a pretty big experimental barrel program, and essentially what we do is we give barrels to distillers for free. They fill it with their juice, and they send us samples back every year. So we're now a little over 3,000 experimental barrels all across the world. So it's my job to monitor all those barrels, do the analysis, and run it to the tasting panel. And then the other 50%, 48%, which is Jane, is just helping our customers. It's kind of like a flavor development. They have marketing ideas, they have ideas for new products, and they, wood's a pretty easy thing to vary to a certain extent. So we just supply our expertise and help them out the best we can. So the wood finishing series is a great example of how we cooperate with our partners that are whiskey producers.
Yeah. So I mean, I had met people in the bourbon industry, over the years, just at bottle signings and those type of things, even a couple whiskey dinners and stuff like that. But I know, my first friend in the industry was you. So you go back to, I don't know, 2014, 2015, 26, somewhere in that era, you and I became buddies. But how pathetic was our lives at that point? I mean,
How
hanging
pathetic.
on Instagram
Oh my,
live, just
well,
the two of us. It's Instagram live. Anybody can come on. The whole world, literally the whole world could possibly be there.
yeah,
7,
I
8
mean,
billion people. It would
I
be
like to think that I was an early adopter of Instagram Live. And I think
Yes.
Renee definitely remembers probably some of those
Me,
sessions.
it would be me and Steve
right.
watching. What was it called? Bourbon Tucky.
Yeah. It's Andrew watching TV. That would be our night. We're watching Andrew watching
you
TV.
and I.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd go downstairs, and this is when I had a little bit more free time every single night, and I'd drink and watch TV, and I'd get on Instagram Live just to see who would show up, and we'd sit there for, I don't know, 2 hours and not really say anything, and I'd flip my camera around, we'd watch TV, and
you should never tell this story again.
It's pathetic, isn't it?
It's retro, man. It's throwback. But no, those were some good times for sure. I can't say I've gone back to Instagram Live since then, but sure was fun while it lasted.
Yeah. So back to the job stuff. When you're doing experiments, are these ideas you come up with? And I'm talking not necessarily the ones that distilleries assign you. I'm talking about the ones that ISC does. Is it like brainstorming where you get the group together and you come up and then you make a list of what's best, or you, like I said, you doing these personally? How does that work?
There is, a certain amount of the experience that are experiments that, are something that I just want to try personally. Not that it really has any monetary benefit to the company, but it's just interesting to see these kind of things. Most of the stuff revolves around things that we do. So, experiments to better understand toasting, better understand charring, wood species, grain tightness, wood seasoning, anything you can think of to a barrel, we've done. And we've since kind of graduated. I mean, we've done so much bourbon and American whiskeys. I mean, and now we're moving on to other spirits and other categories and essentially just repeating everything over again. So we've done warehouse experiments. We've done climate experiments where we've sent same barrels of the same whiskey to 5 different parts of the world just to see how they're aging differently in different climates. We've gotten that in depth. And then now we're kind of starting from the base, jar, toast, wood species, that kind of thing with this year, we're doing Scotch whiskey, Japanese whiskey, Irish whiskey, and we've also done some Australian whiskey, which started last year. So now we're starting to do all that stuff over again, but in different categories. I think I repeated myself there, but that's just what we do.
Yeah,
and it's all about. There is some new product development. Definitely. As far as like new barrels, new types of barrels, new ways to make barrels, that kind of thing. But most of it is. Our attempt to be better consultants to our customers.
Yeah. One of the things that I have, and I've got a lot of respect for you for a lot of different reasons, but one of them is the fact that you come as a fan. And, like when I had my corporate job, I did that corporate job because I needed the money. I didn't really care about the company. Once I had been shit upon and beaten down enough where I knew my job would never go anywhere but where I was, but I was comfortable with what I was making. I didn't care. But you do care about the industry. You're a fan of the industry. And, and I often ask, distillers and things like that, what does it feel when you see a bottle on the shelf? But what about for you? You're involved in some of these, experiments and different things that helps, like a lot of your work with Maker's Mark. And then you see it out on the shelf and you were part of that. What's that feel like as a fan when you see that out on the shelf?
It's very fulfilling. I mean, it's not like we're going out and, saying that ISC did this or ISC that, but it's very fulfilling to work on these projects for brands that, that you kind of looked up to. And, it's kind of a fanboy thing to say, but, essentially, that you worship these distillers and master distillers. I mean, they were, kind of like rock stars to me and still are. But, I think fulfilling is just the best. It's just very, very cool to walk by, just glance over and say, hey, had a hand or helped out, or, I knew what, I know what went into making that product. I know how much hard work went into making that product.
That's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
You, buddy, are kind of like the Batman of bourbon. Matter of fact, I saw you in a bourbon mobile the other day. What's the deal with that thing? I literally a Jeep, and it says bourbon on the side, and it's like the Batmobile of bourbon, but it's the bourbon mobile.
Well, again, I'm a big fan of bourbon, so still am, and I think it kind of reflects in different aspects. And one of them is, I got a Jeep, and on the side of some Jeeps, if you got the right trim level or whatever, it said Rubicon on the side of it, and I was like, you know what, that looks an awful lot like bourbon, sort of, because there's a lot of same letters. So I just made some stickers, tore those off, and just put bourbon, and nobody ever notices, and that's kind of the cool thing. Nobody
really.
Yeah.
Oh, I noticed right away. Yeah.
Yeah. The bourbon guys know, and the Jeep guys know, but everybody else just kind of don't pay attention. Probably not the best thing to put on the side of your car.
This is true.
Because it might, a cop might just, kind of, this guy might like to drink a little bit, but I thought it was pretty cool.
What I love about Wiehebrink is when it comes to toys and fun and those type of things, unlimited budget. Anything else though in his life, he's the cheapest person you'll ever meet. So, but when it comes to the fun stuff in life, he's a big spender. So
yeah, I apply my money wisely.
Yeah,
I think at least.
Yeah. I caught him one time on a first date, so he had to be a big spender. He's on a date number one, man. He's buying me rounds and stuff like that. And he texted me the next day, asked me to pay him back for all those rounds.
Oh my God.
I thought, man, this is a new week. I thought you turned over a new leaf. I thought, man, this is unbelievable. He's like, get whatever you want. I don't care. I'm like, I'm thinking about going top shelf here. He's like, no problem, buddy. No problem. Yeah.
I'm not that cheap.
Next day.
My cheapness applies to, like, I could go to Walmart and get a shirt,
right?
As opposed to going to, like, whatever one fancy stores or something like that.
Right.
That's kind of my cheapness. I like the cereal in a bag as opposed to the box.
Yeah, you buy like hideous flip flops that are.
Yeah.
I
do have a weird obsession with flip flops.
Oh, and they're not like cool flip flops.
No, I've seen these.
That people wear with socks.
Yeah.
In like the late 80s, early 90s. Do you know the ones I mean? They're not even.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No, my girl, Jen, she gets on me about these damn flip flops and says, they're the most hideous things in the world.
They are hideous, but
they are. And I don't know why. I just, for some reason, I have this flip flop. I don't call it not an obsession, but an admiration for, finely built flip flops.
Finely built.
I need to know, how many new outfits has Jen bought you or forced you into?
Well,
because we know Jen, she's stylish. She's so cute.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
She's very subtle in her recommendations. It's like, I'll come out of the bathroom and, is that what you're wearing? It's those kind of things, which essentially means, go back and try something else.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty basic. I've got in my closet, I've got 5 t-shirts. I've got like 5 pairs of jeans. I keep it pretty simple. Always wear a hat most of the time.
Yeah. So if there's a craft distiller out there wanting some recommendations on a barrel, and they're looking for a flavorful bourbon, but don't necessarily know your side of the business, what would be some recommendations you would give to them?
It kind of depends. So, I would say the determining factor, there's 2 of them, is, how long is going to be in the barrel. And then, what do you want it to taste like? With our technology at ISC, and, it's kind of the same thing that we apply with, the makers, and Jane can attest to this. There's a lot of different possibilities with wood as far as flavors go. I was telling Jane that I cleared out our private Stave kind of list of things that we've done, and we were up to it was well over 100 staves that we had tried. But there's that many possibilities when it comes to flavors. So the first question is how long it's going to be in the barrel. Every now and then we'll say, most of the time it's a bourbon, is a rye, is a malt whiskey, and then what do you want it to taste like? And then from that point, we just kind of back into, a barrel. If they say, hey, we want something that's going to be 2 years, we keep the char level down as low as we can to get more extractives. If they want vanilla, we'll toast it to a certain temperature for a certain amount of time. If it's going to be a double barrel application, we'll adjust the toast profile, we'll adjust the wood seasoning. If they want a little extra sexiness to it, we'll add French oak because, people seem to like that kind of exotic wood type thing. So, I mean, it really just depends. I mean, we try our best to just get a few basic ideas and then let them, kind of build the barrel. And we'll tell them, or you can come in and taste, like come in and taste what a char 2 tastes like, or come in and taste what French oak. We've got all this stuff in our library. So we try to make it very, very customer forward in terms of, the decisions have to be made to design a barrel.
That's cool. Last question. We always like to ask a fun one. What's your favorite food to pair with bourbon?
I don't know.
Hot Pocket?
Fiber One? No, no. I don't know. I mean, I eat anything.
Oh yeah, I've been to your house. We just did a fry up. We just started frying a bunch of stuff. It was cool.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not a very good food pairer. Like I'm not, I guess, elegant enough, or not. What's the word I'm looking for? Sophisticated. Yeah, sophisticated enough. No, I usually, I really don't try to pair food with bourbon.
Okay. All right. Well, Andrew, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it, my friend. But now we've got the Tandem Round, we're going to call it, where we want to ask you two together. So, this has already been alluded to a little bit. So Jane said something about her thoughts about Andrew, but tell us about the first time you two met, what you thought of one another, and give us a little insight into what that was like and what you thought of the other.
I thought she was wonderful. She hated me.
Sure. Okay.
I don't think it was quite like that.
It took a while. No, the first meeting that we had, actually, we came in, and it was actually the mocha replacement, which, people, they wonder how long that was 5.5 years ago.
It was 4 or 5 years, yeah,
that we worked on that mocha replacement. And, that was the first meeting. And I came in with my predecessor, a guy that did my job before me, and he was, his name was Ed Larmy, and he's, again, you talk about one of those unsung heroes, like people have no idea how much work goes behind. He was one of those guys. Very similar to, Jane, and, there's people out there that, have a chemistry background, a very, very scientific background, and that kind of thing. And then there's people out there that just know whiskey, and they just know every single aspect of it. They just know it by heart. And Ed is one of those guys. So we came in there with Ed, and it was just kind of a initiation period. And we just went through, a 2-hour-long meeting, tasted some different things. This was the meeting after she kicked me out.
Okay.
But yeah, that was one of the first times there. And that was kind of the kickoff of a wonderful relationship.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to know your honest insight into what you thought.
I don't think I thought anything. I think
you thought something.
I think there were a few things going on here.
Hipster doofus, did that come up at all in your mind?
What?
Hipster doofus?
No, hipster, please. I think it was, we had been working with Ed and David and Brad on private select for so long. So I think there was that. And then Brad oversold you. So before you ever came in, Brad and I did this event at the Marriott East in Louisville, and they had one of your ice machines. And Brad had gone on and on and on and on. And so part of me was just like, I don't want to like this guy. Brad not oversold. He didn't oversell you. You're amazing. But I think it was just I felt like you were being forced on me.
That's not something you want to hear.
But here's the first moment I started to like Andrew. And I'm not someone that is just gonna like you because you're in my life or I have to. I'm not a mean person, but I'm a very honest person. So the first time Andrew and I have, I guess, a meeting, just the two of us, and I'm like, you want to go to lunch? He's like, sure. So we have one restaurant in the town we're in, and it's a bar and grill. And I mean, this place is they still have a smoking section. So we go in, we're sitting in a booth. It's like a Tuesday afternoon, and they come over, and I don't look at the menu. I mean, we eat there every day. So I'm like, I'll have, whatever. Adrian orders the seafood plat.
That's where you want to go to get a fine
Yeah.
It looked good.
There's a seafood platter. He's like, it's on the back of the menu. I'm like, I've never looked at the back of the menu.
Uh-huh.
Population 412 people. I mean,
Right.
and so like, what comes on the seafood platter? And they're like, well, there's shrimp, catfish, and frog legs. I'm like,
I've never had saltwater frog, so I was like, I had to try this. That was a joke.
so,
No such thing as saltwater frog, but for some reason they had frog legs on the seafood platter.
Andrew's perfect food to pair with bourbon is whatever is in front of him. But it was, so I'm like, oh my God, that's hilarious that this guy's gonna eat a seafood platter at noon on a Tuesday before we go taste whiskey. So that's one of my favorite Andrew and Jane at the beginning stories.
That's a great story. Yeah. That's insightful.
Steve,
Anything
have
else?
you not-
Yeah.
Steve, have you not been to Cozy Corner before?
I have. Yes, I
That,
have.
that was the restaurant.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, here's a burger with a side of ash. You'll love it.
Yeah.
So tell us about the 46 project, working on Makers 46. Tell us about that.
Neither of us worked on that.
You didn't work on that?
No, we just improved on everything they learned.
Ah.
No,
That was
What
definitely
was the first project you worked on then?
together was
mocha replacement.
mocha replacement, but the first thing we launched, I guess, that we worked on together was RC6.
RC6. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first project ever created in Kentucky.
No,
Out of
actually,
ISC.
that's incorrect.
Is it?
Butterscotch,
Oh, yes. BU.
if you can count that one. I don't. I mean, it was a gift shop only, and it was like
Well, and
it was a good one too. It was good.
Screw up. I mean, that one was us not using our brains during. It's interesting to see the evolution over the last 5 years. Is that how long we've been working together, Andrew?
I've been with ISC for 6.
So about 5 years,
Yeah.
no, 6 years. It's been interesting. We've gotten so much better and more efficient at these projects. In the beginning, we made a ton of mistakes just because we had never done it before on how we would test things or the amount of liquid we would give to it, or, even Andrew, like how we schedule bottle soaks now and tasting schedules. I mean, we're so much better than we used to be. At the beginning, we screwed up a whole lot.
Well, I mean, the very first run of staves we did like 28 staves, and we had to taste those on a weekly basis. And you just, I mean, people, oh, you got the best job. You get to, drink at the job.
So every week you've got to try 28 different offerings because you got the 28 different staves. Is that, or were you eliminating as you went? They're like, this one's not working out, we'll cut this one here, or did you keep all 28 the whole time?
So the way that you work with these bottle soaks is that, they evolve very, very quickly, as far as when you introduce wood, like a 46 application, they evolve. So the idea behind those things is you have to pay attention for unique flavors that just pop up. And when you find a unique flavor that works, you make an iteration of that. And then, with, Jane's process, we had to make it appear at 9 weeks. So, I mean,
For private select, but
Yeah.
for everything else, it's open timing.
Gotcha.
So I think in the beginning, we were trying to solve everything immediately. The process now is we'll have a meeting about a project. We'll talk about timelines. We'll talk about taste goals. We'll talk about kind of what we want to do. He goes away. He's the wood genius. He goes away. He builds stave profiles. He brings them back. And then we run bottle soaks for our finishing program. You're not going to give, to Andrew's point, we've done over 100 staves. in the last couple of years, you're not going to give full barrels to that. That would be really irresponsible and wasteful. So we do bench top samples with bottle soaks. We have a walk-in fridge that mimics our limestone cellar. And so we'll soak these, we'll taste. He'll come over. He doesn't taste necessarily every week. You try to, but often we'll find something. He'll come over, we'll go through and we'll say, this one, like today, this one's really good at 4 weeks. It did this at 5 weeks. We're going to run another to see what happens in the middle. But if you could go away and pull back the spice here and try to fatten it up there, and then he goes away, he'll rework the stave, he'll bring the wood back, and we'll go again.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes we get it quick. I never feel done. Like I always feel like we can, what if we can find a better whiskey, or what if we can,
that has to be the toughest part. Cause yeah, when is it done? Right. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
there's been times where it's been done and we'll taste it. Like, let's just taste it one more time. And then Jane will say, you know what we could do? And then, here we go again.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, like when we name a stave, you'll have the stave name, then you'll have a number, dash, and then another number. So the first number is the rework, you know, how many reworks have you done? And then the second number is the iteration of that rework. So you'll have something like Mocha 4-6 is how many iterations that we do of a single stave to try to get it right. And it's a noble, thing. It's not like we're just doing it to do it. I mean, we know we can constantly improve, and it just takes a while with this type of flavoring, it just takes a while to get there.
Yeah.
And it has to be optimal.
Yeah. That's cool. So you guys obviously had a project that is just coming out right now, FA02. Tell us about that specific one. What went into that one? And people are obviously searching for it now out there. It's hitting the shelves.
This is a tough one. It's interesting. I think each project has had its own different challenges. I think this one we did almost the most amount of actual wood iterations, other than maybe when we retired Mondiant. Maybe that would have been the only one. You know, RC6, we actually stumbled on it early, and then I made him spend 18 months trying to improve it. And we're like, all right, we'll go back to the original. But this one, you know, the whole goal was texture. So we it's the first time we'd ever asked him, we want something that's texture forward, even before flavor. And the flavor needs to kind of do X, Y, Z, but the texture is the most important part. So we had this, it's hard to explain, but the best way I can describe it is I get in my brain what it's going to taste like. And it's really specific in my head. And I don't know if Denny and Beth are the same. As far as they can visualize until you find it. So sometimes I'm like, this is it. And everybody's like, really? And then we talk about it. And sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm wrong. It's why you have a team. Nothing's in isolation. But this one, because it was so texture focused, sometimes we would get staves and it was like, oh my God, the texture's there. The flavor is way off. Like it's doing something weird on the flavor, or you would get the exact flavor you were going after, but it would be thin, or it would be too astringent, or so how the hell he figured out the toast, because we did some really weird stuff on this one. Things we had never done before. I used the royal wheat. He did some really weird stuff on
right.
But this one was, and you know, this one was one of the more stressful from just all the others, I knew we would get there. And with this one, I just didn't know if it was ever going to happen. Because sometimes it's like, am I trying to do something that's just not going to happen? Like, so I don't know if you want to talk about the wood, Andrew.
Well, I think the process, is a big part of, figuring out the wood. I mean, like I said, you guys have redefined and kind of refined the process of, I guess, visualizing this thing. And then, with the way that you describe whiskey, it really connects with me and it makes my life a lot easier just because, when she says, one thing as far, let's just use, texture, for example, we can relate it back to something that we've kind of tasted before. Right. And so it clicks with me and say, okay, this whiskey that before had that. So just try that. With this one, it was a little bit different and it kind of fell in line, with the RC6 in the sense that you really have to promote something that doesn't necessarily come from wood, right? So what I mean by that is like you have to use wood to promote something that doesn't necessarily really come from wood. So I think it was a challenge for RC6, but again, more of a challenge for this one. RC6 did have some, in my opinion, some flavor direction. This one did too, but I think, again, this was more of a sensation kind of texture forward, not something that usually comes directly from a finishing. So probably the most challenging one. I would agree with Jane for sure.
Yeah.
The most irritated we've been with each other on a project, I think.
Oh, yeah, this
Was this
project, this was the first time that Jane's ever got, well, I mean, I'm sure she's probably gotten mad and just didn't tell me. This is
She
the
kicked
first
you out
time.
of the lab once. We know that.
Well, yeah, and she was just putting me in my place there, and like I said, I needed that. But I think this is the first time that she's gotten mad at me and told me, like, hey, I'm not happy, and that was a little scary.
Yeah. That's a little scary, right?
You made me. I am not pleased. No, it was. I think it was just. It was because here's the thing. He's part of our team. He's part of our process. So like, it's not like, I mean, if you've seen Denny and I together, it is no holds barred. Like part of the Maker's Mark culture is you are supposed to challenge one another. And so Andrew's a part of our family. So this was one, there was just, and he was like, I think you have unreasonable expectations. I hear that a lot. And then it was just a lot of, and I think we got there. I think we did some things. I think the wood did though, or I've been telling people my theory on why this worked. Because you did a double toast, right?
Mhm.
And then I think with French oak, when you think about extraction rates, and now you've double toasted, I think so much got in there, it fattened up the whiskey. And then we actually vatted this longer than we typically would to let it really come together and get richer. So I do think the wood did a lot of that, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain compounds that do certain things, right? So there's compounds that fatten up a whiskey. There's compounds that add finish. There's compounds that add what we call structure. But at the same time, those compounds add flavor as well. And a lot of the times you get these kind of, we call them taste, or Jane calls them taste visions. It could mean a sensation like finish or structure or, kind of fatness, that kind of thing. But it's sometimes when you get those, it's difficult trying to isolate one without getting another, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's difficult trying to get, we want the whiskey fatter, we want it to taste the same. Well, to get it fatter, you have to actually put in more of a flavor compound. So when you have these projects that kind of focus on sensation, sometimes it gets tough.
Gotcha. Jane, this is probably geared more towards you, though, Andrew, you probably have tried this, maybe, I don't know for sure, but I want to ask a little bit about the DNA experiment that is just out now, because I did buy a set of those. I was just at Makers last weekend, and I got that. We're going to do an event around that. What should we expect as we're tasting that? What do you think is going to be the experience there, Jane?
I think most people are surprised, and Andrew's been a part. He wasn't necessarily a part
Right
of
at the
process,
beginning, but
but he's been a part of it. And
okay.
we brought, I mean, he knows more about flavor development in the barrel than anyone I know. And this whole project was about the role of entry proof during maturation and what those correlations looked like. And I think if you had asked us 8 years ago, is it going to be different? We would have said, yeah, it's going to be different. Like, and I think you probably would have thought they stair-stepped a little and there was correlation. There's not.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is the role of entry proof is so much more substantial than we ever could have imagined. There's probably a lot of smart distillers out there that would have known it would have been so different. I think I don't have a science background, right? So it's one of those things you hear, oh, water's the universal solvent. Okay, what does that mean? It means when there's more water, it's going to pull everything out of the barrel more aggressively. And so when you taste these whiskeys, the 110, it's just more of everything. And you find the flavor perceptions are so different in these 4 whiskeys. So even though, you know, they might have similar compounds or similar things from a DNA standpoint, your flavor perception is going to be totally different. For example, that 110, more wood sugars, more tannins, more baking. It's just richer, deeper. There's more. The 115 kind of goes to this weird earthy, nutty place. And then the 120 is like tropical fruit hitting you in the face. And you're like, how did that happen?
Right.
Like, why is that happening in this whiskey? So 8 years of a ton of research, and we're going to finish out the project to say we're not going to change a thing at Maker's Mark. But
right. No, that's cool though. It justifies what you've been doing. So that's neat.
I will tell you, you will love the tasting. Even if it's not like you get these bottles and it's like, let's go drink them and I want to drink this. They're all great whiskeys. We know how to make good whiskey. They're just so different. And the reality is the other 3 are not Maker's Mark. And so it was we learned a ton. We shared a lot of learnings with Andrew. They've done similar experiments at ISC where they're kind of trying to understand proof alcohol to water ratio and how the barrel extracts into that and what reactions will create over time. But it was fascinating.
It's a fun project for sure. So I can't wait to do this with the group. I mean, and again, it's this once in a lifetime opportunity. It's not like you're going to do this again, or, you know, there's no need to do it again. You've done it and you've verified what you thought, and it's cool. Yeah. Bill Samuel Sr. got it right. All those
Got
years
it right.
ago. Yeah. It's really cool. Very cool. Last question I got out of you two, who's funnier? Who's the funnier one?
Jane.
I would agree.
That's unanimous. I'll say that too. Yeah. But what I'll say about Wiehebrink is he is funny. He is a funny guy, but he also sometimes he can be the butt of the jokes, and he's good with that. He's a great guy because, you know, he's a great guy to be around because it doesn't matter if he's dishing it or he's taking it. He's having fun, and he makes for a fun guy to be around. So
he's
Thank you,
hilarious.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he is.
And I gotta brag, like, just one of the most genuine people you'll ever meet. Fun to work with. Smart, like I laugh. It's like we're kids when Brad Boswell's tasting with us because he scolds us the whole time because we talk too much.
Right.
We'll be like, please, guys, and it feels like dad's yelling at you when the 3 of us are together. But no, you're hilarious. But I would agree with that, Steve. He lets you poke fun at him, which
he does. You know, he's a good sport. He's a good sport, which is not everybody can say that. So a lot of people
normally when somebody makes fun of me, it's usually true. So it's kind of hard to get mad. But no, we have a fun time when we get to taste together. And the cool thing is 9 times out of 10, and we do have some fun meetings where productivity does go down. But 9 times out of 10, we learn something.
Yeah.
And it's a good balance for sure.
Well, that's a pretty cool thing. Well, so glad I had you two on together. It gives us more insight into your work relationship and how your 2 jobs come and complement one another, and the working relationship that you two have is very neat. So very cool time tonight. Really appreciate it. And of course, we'll wrap this one up as we always do by talking about where people can find us. Andrew, we'll start with you. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Andrew in Kentucky on Instagram.
Okay. What about Cowboy Andy DJ? Is that still active?
Yeah.
Never on Instagram.
Yeah, no.
Like, are there T-shirts floating around?
Right.
Or like,
We need some.
yeah.
We need to get that designed.
Account and co-own it.
Right. And just have some fun with it. Just make the post, and we'll all have it. We can all
Amazon thing where he can create a limited T-shirt. He could probably make that happen.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. We have that new thing where we can do T-shirts like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was a different part of my life.
And it's gonna come back apparently.
Yeah, it's coming back. It's making a comeback. Get ready.
Yeah.
All right, Jane, how about you? Where can people find you?
I don't even know what my Instagram. I think it's at Jane Thomas Bowie. And then you just follow Maker's Mark. It's way more interesting.
Yeah, it's everywhere. All social media platforms. Maker's Mark is obviously there. All right, McNew, how about you? Where can people find you?
I am on Instagram at McNew ABV, and you can find me every Tuesday on the ABV Network channel, hosting Bottle Kills and Last Meals.
All right, for me, I'm an easy guy to find. I'm at Steve Akeley on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I've got a website, steveakeley.com. The important website, though, is abvnetwork.com. Check it out because everything that we do is out there. You want to get the deal on the book? It's out on abvnetwork.com. All of our previous shows are out there, blogs, so much more, abvnetwork.com. McNew, anything else to say before we get out of here?
I'd like to remind the audience to please hit that subscribe button for Bourbon Sasquatch on YouTube, where all of our shows will be posted. And when you're watching, please give us a thumbs up, leave some comments, and share it. It helps new people find the show, which is very important to us. And next week, we have George Rose, aka Pappy G, and Richard Paul of Art of Spirits. It's going to be a great week next week.
That's going to be a great week next week. I was laughing because I don't know how this happened to me. We have the people with the two best heads of hair in the world of whiskey are going to be on the show next week.
I'm very jealous. They don't have to buy theirs, and I know it's a problem.
Maybe to get some tips.
That's the thing.
That's the thing. We'll work on shampoo tips and all that kind of stuff. But
oh yeah, that's part of it.
All right, for our guests, let's hear it for Andrew Wiehebrink and Jane Bowie. Great job today. They brought it. We had some fun. Appreciate it. And you guys have a good night. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.